Imagine waking up to your email inbox full of qualified calendar bookings. And imagine if all of those people had conversations with your business via an AI agent. Well, this is the reality for one of our clients booking 160 calls a month solely from our AI agent. This isn't just a theory or a potential use case. It's a fully deployed, real-world system generating hundreds of thousands of dollars monthly. And in this video, you're going to get free access to everything behind it. I'll begin by providing some background on how we connected with the client, the challenge they were facing, and the solution that we proposed. Then I'm going to do a live demo interacting with the agent. After that, I'll guide you through a visual call flow diagram that outlines the voice agent's process. And finally, I'll give you a detailed walkthrough of the system prompt used in this build and the voice agent's configuration settings. I'm Brendan, the founder of Inflate AI, an AI automation agency that helps businesses deploy AI agents across voice, chat, and workflow automation. We've helped numerous companies, including the one featured in today's video, streamline their operations, increase revenue, and save valuable time. So let me give you a bit of background. A few months ago, a luxury travel company contacted us through this YouTube channel for help addressing issues in their lead capture process. At the time, they generated over 400 daily leads through Instagram and Facebook ads. If you're also interested in working with us, feel free to book a call using the link in the description. Our client's funnel relied on running ads, capturing leads, adding them to an email list, and hoping that those leads would either book a call or make a purchase on their own. Whilst the high lead volume made this somewhat sustainable, there was really no active outreach or engagement taking place at all. Now, in an ideal scenario, a person scrolling through Instagram sees an ad, submits an inquiry, and within seconds receives a call to continue the conversation, whether that's asking questions, booking appointments, or collecting key information. Given the size of their team, personally calling every lead who inquired would have been an overwhelming task. On top of that, they were offering travel packages to customers in Australia, United Kingdom, and the United States, making time zone coordination a significant challenge. This meant their choices were pretty limited, so they could either call the leads themselves or hire an in-house or outsourced team to actually handle that outreach. Handling these calls internally wasn't really a realistic option. Their team simply didn't have the capacity, and attempting it would have quickly led to burnout. Building an in-house team would have been expensive and complex, requiring staff to work in rotating shifts, potentially overnight or across different time zones. They'd also be paid hourly, even during periods of inactivity. Outsourcing was the more typical path for companies like theirs. Teams in countries such as the Philippines, where the labor is more affordable, are commonly used for this kind of work. However, while outsourcing may reduce costs, it does come with trade-offs. These teams are generally paid by the hour rather than by performance or call volume. Language barriers often lead to less than ideal customer experiences, as English may not be their first language. Communication can suffer as well, and obviously over time, fatigue becomes a real factor, negatively impacting the call quality. On the other hand, AI voice agents come with some really big advantages. They charge by the second instead of by the hour. They speak fluent English and other languages, and don't get tired, so the quality stays very consistent. So ultimately, it's a super scalable, affordable, and reliable option in comparison to both of those. So now that you understand the benefits and reasons for using an automated system, you're probably wondering about the actual results. As I mentioned earlier, the client is booking around about 160 calls per month through this system. Those 160 calls came from roughly 1,200 conversations, meaning there was a direct booking rate of more than 10%. With an average order value of around $2,500 USD per travel package, this translates to $400,000 per month in new opportunities driven entirely by AI. I'm now going to go ahead and receive a call from the system itself, and I'm going to demo exactly what this thing sounds like.
Hi Brandon, I'm Anna, assistant, and this call is on a recorded line. I saw you sent your details in and are interested in one of our trips. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I was just looking through my Instagram and saw an ad about the Bali trip. I was very interested in it.
That's awesome, Brandon. Bali is such a fantastic choice. Is now a good time to chat about it?
Yeah, completely fine. I had a few questions actually.
Great. I'd be happy to help. What questions do you have about the Bali trip?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was any activities to do with sort of underwater exploration.
Yes, absolutely. On day 5 of the Bali trip, we have a private boat day to Nusa Lembongan, which includes snorkeling in the Indian Ocean. It's a fantastic opportunity to explore the underwater world, soak up the sun, and enjoy a fun day on the water with. Let me know if you'd like more details about this or anything else.
No, that's awesome. That's great to see that. No, thank you. I think I'm gonna go do it and just book it on the website.
That sounds great, Brandon. If you need any help or have more questions while booking, feel free to reach out. Have an amazing time planning your trip, and we hope to see you in Bali soon. Take care.
So there you have it. That was a call that I just received from the system that we built, essentially calling me about an inquiry that I made on Instagram. It went ahead and called me immediately after that and essentially just wanted to ask some questions about that I just did. And I sort of prompted it to say, yes, I do have a question, and it answered it perfectly within its knowledge base of information that it has about the business. And hopefully you can actually see the use case there. But jumping over now to a visual call flow diagram that we built out initially for this client to actually map out and get an understanding as to what the conversational experience would be like or could be like for this system. This is what we built. So ultimately, this voice agent is actually on the more simpler side as to how the conversation goes and what it's trying to do. There's nothing too complicated about what it's trying to achieve. And this is also a really key point to note when building out voice agents or wanting to build out a voice agent. The more simpler we can make it, the more streamlined we can make it, it's going to have a much better conversational experience. It's going to be a lot easier to talk with, and you're going to see overall better results. But anyways, scrolling to the top here, we've got this first sort of note here where this works. The blue here is sort of the start of the conversation. It's going to start here. From here, there's a couple of different sort of pathways. So each of these lines are the sort of pathways and different ways that the system can go. I'm going to start here. This is our greeting message. So the one thing that isn't on this diagram is essentially how the call is triggered. So at the moment with this client, what we're using is a Zapier automation to trigger the outbound call. And once again, it's actually a very simple automation to do so. Essentially, it's a Zapier setup that looks for new leads coming through into their CRM. We've set it up to do an automatic trigger when a new lead comes through. That then automatically goes to a webhook, and that webhook is just connected to retail. So like any other requests or API requests, we're just sending it to Retail AI, where our voice agent is built, and it's just going to automatically trigger a call from there. And it's just going to obviously initiate this conversation then from here. So our first message says, "Hi there, I'm calling from company. I saw that you were interested in some of our trips. Is now a good time to discuss further?" So obviously it doesn't say company, it has the actual our client's name there, but otherwise it just reads out this quick little message that just says, "Hey, look, we saw that you just signed up for one of our things. Is now a good time to discuss further?" That's a good part to put in there. Obviously not everybody's going to be ready to have a conversation, obviously to talk about it. And we've actually got something set up, which I'll show you in a minute, which actually helps to mitigate people that aren't actually ready to discuss at the time that they're being called, which I think is a very important factor when it comes to this specific use case. So from here, we've got two different options. We've either got no or we've got yes. So if they say yes, now is a good time to talk. I'm happy to continue discussions on this. It's going to say, "Great, let me introduce you to our company," where, company name is a travel experiences provider offering 4 key locations: Bali, Dubai, Tulum, and Greece. Our experiences and blah, blah, blah. So this is a message that we sort of iterated on as we started to build it and test it. So we just sort of mapped out a rough sort of question that we could ask out here. So we just put ... for now. After that, ultimately, we just want to ask them, "Have you got any questions for us at the moment?" So that's sort of what that reads out if they say yes. And then from there, they've got another set of conditions. So if they say, "Yes, I do have some questions," it's just going to obviously ask for them what that question is, or they can just say their question and it's just going to go ahead and answer that. So this was essentially uploaded with a whole suite of knowledge base documents. So we uploaded documents on all of the trips that the company offered. We just uploaded knowledge base documents, and that gave it all the context that it needed. As you saw from my demo, it was able to pull from an exact activity sheet that was for one of the Bali trips, and it was able to repeat that back to me. So it's very intelligent. It's got all the context it needs. And once again, and these systems are very flexible. So we can upload a very vast amount of data for it to talk with and retrieve with to answer very complex questions. But otherwise, both of these pathways lead to the next step here. So they say, "No, I don't have any questions." It's going to say, "No worries. Perhaps I can set up a time with one of our specialists who can talk through our options and book a trip for you. How does that sound?" So it's going to go straight for call to action. The ultimate thing that we want to do is just book them into an appointment so we can get the sort of the process rolling a bit further. And obviously if they answer that question and they say thank you for that, we're then going to obviously continue on to this part as well. If they say yes, I'd be happy to book a trip. This is great. We're going to say brilliant. What time works best for you? And then it's just your basic sort of appointment booking system. So we're just going to ask them what time they'd like to book for. It's going to go great. Let me just check the calendar real quick. So we've got 2 different functions, and I'll show you this in a minute as well. But we can check the calendar availability. So making sure that obviously we can book within that time. And so obviously going to find the time that we can book in for, talk back and forth and be a bit conversational, and then obviously confirm that booking. Now, obviously with this call flow diagram right here, it seems very static and seems very conditional, but actually the system itself is very fluent. It's very conversational. You can throw any question at any point and it's going to be able to respond and handle that situation and do it all fluently. This call diagram is mostly for the purpose of just understanding the main aspects of it and understanding exactly where things should be placed so that we can then obviously shape a prompt from it. Otherwise, this flow is now complete. We've booked an appointment for them and we're good to go. That's all we were really looking to do. Now, another key part of this system and something that I think is actually very, very important when it comes to building out a system that is going to be that sort of immediate speed to lead outbound caller. The fact is, not everybody's going to want to be on the phone at that time. They might be in bed filling out a lead form because they're just on Instagram scrolling and they're going to get a call and maybe they don't want to speak at that time. And so if they pick up, we want to be able to handle that in a way that doesn't really annoy them. And so we can do that by essentially saying, okay, if they said no, they're not interested in talking at all at the moment, we can just say, no worries. Can I reschedule this for another time, perhaps tomorrow? And just let me know what time best suits that. And so we can essentially take a time they would like to, be better suited for this call. And they say, you know what, tomorrow, can you just send me a call, 10 a.m. tomorrow when I'm actually awake, or 10 a.m. tomorrow because it's just easier for me. We're going to be able to capture that data because we can just capture exactly when they want to be called back at. And very simply, we've got an automation that is actually set up to capture that information. It's going to capture their phone number. It's going to capture exactly when they want to have that call received. And it's going to essentially set up a retail call trigger to do exactly that. So it's just literally going to send them a call the next day at the exact time they wanted a call. Their phone's going to start ringing with our AI. So pretty awesome that we can essentially have this sort of full rounded solution where the agent is managing the immediate calls, but it's also got the ability to start to schedule other calls for the convenience of the customer. But otherwise, if they don't want to schedule another call, they're just not interested in calling whatsoever, we can say, no worries. If you are interested in our services in the future, don't hesitate to call us back. And otherwise, that's just the end of that situation. We'll typically prompt them at the end of a sentence like that. We'll sort of give them a final confirmation. So we'll just ask them, hey, have you got any further questions for us? If they say, no, I don't have any further questions, we'll just simply end the call. So the agent has the ability to actually end the call itself. But otherwise, that is it for the actual call flow diagram. Like I said, in terms of the complexity that these voice agents can get, this is on the simpler side. So this is a system that isn't the most complex in the world, but it is still generating pretty significant results and revenue for the client just based on the use case itself. So now I'm going to jump into Retail AI, where we've actually built this voice agent, built the entire instruction set, and connected all of the automations required to develop the system that I just ran through. If you aren't familiar with Retail, I do have plenty of other videos on my channel walking through how to build voice agents on Retail, how to prompt voice agents, and all the things required to get an agent up and running. You can check out those other videos. Otherwise, I am also going to do a quick run through of all the functions and settings that we're using with this particular agent to get it to be where it is, and also the prompt, of course, as well. I'm going to run through as to exactly why we've built the prompt the way that we have. So getting started, this is our prompt right here. This is the length of it. It's not the biggest prompt in the world, but it's also not the shortest prompt in the world. And I'll go through everything that we have, all of the sort of conditioning that we have, all of the examples that we have, and everything that we've sort of added in to get the result that we have and produce the results that we are. So if you look at the top of our prompt here, we do have a few different sections of our prompt. And if you are familiar with my videos, familiar with my prompting, you'll see this is a very familiar template that we use to build out these prompts and start our builds from. So this is the role. This really just sets the personality for the agent. The whole goal of this is to just set the understanding of the agent to know who it is. And this is really important as it continues the conversation. It needs to have the full context as to exactly why it's doing what it's doing. And you'll see it's a very important factor. If we remove that, it would be performing nowhere near as good as if we just kept it there. So it's a very big factor to have in there. If it understands that it's an experienced and friendly appointment setter, as simple as it might seem, the ability to just have the context to know that our ultimate goal is to book appointments and that we work for a travel company really helps out. Below this, we have context. Below this, we have context, and context has been added in with a bunch of variables. And so the way this system is set up, like I said earlier, is that this is actually triggered by a Zapier automation. So we've got a Zapier system that will trigger these calls, send these calls out to the people that are inquiring based on new leads coming in from a CRM system. And so the benefit of having that is that we can actually take all of the data and information from the CRM system and actually throw it into our prompt to make it a little bit more dynamic and a little bit smoother of an experience for the user that is being called. And so most notably, the name is something that we can pull through. So as I picked up the system, it knew my name. I didn't have to tell it my name or do anything about my information. It just knew everything. So it essentially just said, hey, Brendan, blah, blah, blah. It was able to pick up on that. We've also got email in here as well as the phone number. Below this, we've also got the current time. Now, this is not a variable that we're actually pulling in from Zapier. This is something that's automatically in our prompt and ability to be used just from retail itself. So we can just use the current time. And this is important for our bookings, which I'll get to in a minute as well. But we're able to just insert that as a variable and it just starts working no matter what, because that's just a default variable of retail. Then below this, we have the task. Now, the task is really the main sort of chunk of meat, a part of this prompt. So the task is really guiding it through exactly what it needs to do. So you'll see that we structured the prompt in sort of a numbered way to really give it some clear context as to which steps are where. So this is going to be the first step, second and third step. And we've put it all within this task section. So your job is to engage the lead in a conversation, answer any questions they have about our travel packages, and help them schedule a call with a sales rep to discuss further. From there, we've said follow these steps. Number one, introduce yourself as a company, the digital assistant on a recorded line, and confirm the user's interest. So like we showed in that first diagram, the first thing that we want to do is just capture. The first thing that we want to do is just understand if they're interested. Obviously, if they're not interested, we obviously don't want to continue that conversation. We want to ask them if they actually want to call to come back later. Secondly, we'll ask them if now is a good time to discuss. That's just continuing on with that. If they say yes, proceed to step 3. If they say no, follow these steps. So they say, no, I don't want to continue talking. We're going to ask them what an ideal time for them to call back would be. They provide a specific time period, for example, 10 a.m. tomorrow after 5 p.m. Ask for their current location to figure out their time zone. This is an important factor. So in this client's use case, or this client's case, a little bit more unique. Obviously with a travel company, they're working with many different time zones. And so we actually had to do a little bit of further work to make sure that it worked smoothly in this situation. Obviously, if everybody's going to be calling in or being called from the US, it makes it a little bit easier, but there's still some time zones that need to be worked with. Essentially, we just have to say, yep, I'm in Australia. This is my time zone to schedule a callback for. And this is obviously the same sort of thing that needs to happen. If humans are doing this as well, they obviously need to clarify with them, what time are you actually referring to for that callback? And that's the only reason we need to ask for that, is just for the callback to be done properly. We've got a function here, schedule callback function, with the provided time and time zone. If they provide a relative time period, for example, in 5 minutes or in 2 hours, calculate the exact time to call back by adding the given duration to the current time. Once confirmed, then do that function again. So we've also added in the conditioning to not just work with, tomorrow at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. or tomorrow at 12 p.m. We've essentially added in the conditioning to essentially calculate if somebody wants to book in 10 minutes or just somebody wants to receive a call in 10 minutes, we can handle that. And so that's important. Some people call up and just say, look, not available right now, I'm busy, can you just call me back in 10 minutes? We can handle that. And that's also really important. A really cool function to add in there. Otherwise, that step 2 is if they obviously said yes, they're going to proceed to step 3. So coming down to step 3, ask them which trip they're interested in among our destinations. So I'll only mention destinations that are currently available, then share with them the available time of the trip based on the selected destination. Only provide more details if they ask for it and answer any further questions. Remember to query the knowledge base for all information about the trips. So adding in the fact that we want to query the knowledge base is something at the moment that we do need to do if that's a specific area that people are going to be asking about. It's not something that's absolutely needed, although it does help in terms of prompt conditioning and really getting it to essentially trigger that knowledge base. The way that the knowledge base works is that it's sort of like a function call. It sort of needs to be triggered in order to provide information. We're not adding all of the information about the trips into the prompt, so it doesn't have the context. It needs to actually retrieve it. And so if it doesn't have the right trigger to understand when to retrieve that information, then it's not going to happen. It's not going to answer that question. And so setting up in that way to actually query the knowledge base at this point actually did help out to increase a bit of accuracy and reliability from our testing. Otherwise, we do have some sort of key information within our knowledge base or in our prompt. So you can see here, destinations currently available: Bali, Greece, Dubai, and Thailand. So this is very important. This essentially helps us to trigger the knowledge base based on these sort of keywords. If somebody said they wanted to book a trip in Australia, obviously that's not something that should be triggering the knowledge base because it isn't been listed as a destination. This is super important. If we didn't add all of these countries here, it has no context as to what trip information is actually stored within our knowledge base. So if I click over to my knowledge base here, we've got all these documents here. And so potentially it could, obviously, if the name of the document is the country itself, probably would get it. But obviously if we had a document that didn't have that name right out the gate, or there was a specific name for a specific town that they wanted to book for, essentially it wouldn't trigger that knowledge base. And so if we added in the information right here, it's going to be able to think about the destination and it's going to be able to find that knowledge base information far easier. So an important thing to note, this actually improved knowledge base retrieval quite significantly. Next, the fourth step, at the earliest opportunity, offer to help them book a call with one of our experienced experts to learn more about the trip. They decline, politely tell them to reach out if they are interested in the future. So this is the last sort of step of the process. We want to book them into an appointment, essentially saying at the earliest opportunity. So we're not going to force it. If they do have multiple questions or they're sort of talking to the agent, we'll let them do that and answer questions and talk with it and get all of those questions answered. But ultimately at the right point, we wanted to ask about booking an appointment, because that's ultimately what we want to do. But otherwise, we're jumping into the appointment booking setup, which I've done plenty of times before on this channel. Essentially what we're doing is just asking them, when they want to book for. We're going to take that time that they want to book for, and we're just going to check the calendar availability. So you can see here, check time slots. This is going to run the check time slots function. This is something that is built into Retell. So we can go down here, check calendar availability, cal.com. This right here, you can essentially just upload all of your details for cal.com, and it's going to plug in directly, fully natively, and we can just find all of the available time slots. It's going to then provide that information back, and then it's obviously going to, provide if the time is correct, we can book. If it's not correct, it's going to provide some alternative times, and then obviously if it's good to go, we're then going to use the book on the calendar function, and this is just going to directly send that appointment into the calendar to book it. And once that's done, let the user know the booking was successfully set. Ask the user if they have any other questions. If not, we can end the call politely. Once again, like I sort of mentioned this earlier as well, we do want to obviously ask them if they have any further questions. We obviously don't want to really hang up on them too early. We do sort of want to continuously reiterate, do you have any further questions? Just want to make sure before ending the call, just so we can obviously get everything done as smoothly as possible. If they say, nope, I've got no other questions, thank you so much, it's just going to end the call. And that is doing that through an end call function. So there's a few functions going on. We'll run an end call function, which once again is a part of Retell natively. So we're just going to end the call on the user. Now below this is an example. So adding examples is really one of the best ways to get a very high level of consistency and accuracy when using, AI systems, whether it's conversational AI, just AI prompting in general. Adding examples is always the best thing to do to get it to follow exactly what you want it to do. And so in this case, we've essentially just added in a very short sort of conversational example that we could expect to come through. So you can see here, we've added a sort of a way to provide that example. So we've added you, which is the assistant. So we're speaking to the assistant via the prompt, and then just a random name. So Tom is the person that's being called. So it says you, hi, is this Tom? Yes. It's just literally going through like an example conversation. Hi, Tom, I'm Anna, digital assistant. I saw you sent your details in. Are you interested in our trip? He's going to say, yes, I'm thinking about it. I'm interested in Bali. I'd like to schedule a call. 5 p.m. works. I'm in New York. Here is the availability for that. I'm going to provide their email address. Yep, that's right. Okay, 1 second while we book it in. Booking's been scheduled. Perfect. Thank you. Bye. So very simple, direct example of exactly what's just going to be sort of expecting to have happen in one of these calls. And once that's all done, we've got the notes. So notes are essentially what we would typically use once we started testing. So we can add in notes whilst we're developing it and adding in to sort of add on top of our system. So obviously when we start to call the system and talk to it, it's never going to be right out the gate. We obviously want to add to it and fix things and things like formatting and everything like that. We'll typically put in the notes section. So you'll see here, keep responses focused on appointment booking. Remember that your primary objective is to get the customer to book a call with a sales rep. So that has just come from obviously the system, maybe not constantly, getting to that appointment booking stage. Maybe it's diversing from that. We obviously wanted to continue to do that. Another one was respond in only 3 to 5 sentences per response. So that is just helping reduce any large amount of text being sent through, especially when you're using a knowledge base. It's possible that it takes a very large chunk of information and just reads it out like a book. And typically you don't want that when you're speaking to it on the phone. And so adding a little bit of conditioning to make sure shorten your answers and speak it like you would as a real person, and 3 to 5 sentences can help with that. Use everyday language, making the chat feel friendly and casual. So these are just things that you add in as you're going. You chat to it, you talk to it, you realize that there's a few sort of adjustments that need to be made, and you can just add that in the notes section. And so as you can see from all the testing that we did with this system, there's quite a few notes in here that we've added in to really iterate on top of it to get it to be exactly how we want. Pricing is another thing as well. So we obviously want to run a lot of formatting. So if you've looked into these voice agents or built them before, you want to know that pricing and emails and phone numbers are things that need to be prompted specifically to be read out properly. And so you'll see here, when providing information about the price, say it in a natural way. For example, say $3,999 as $3,999 US. So essentially taking a number which might confuse it in terms of how to actually pronounce that, and just pronounce all of the words, split them all up to make it super easy. The way that the system works is that it takes the message and it sends it to 11 Labs. In our case, we're using 11 Labs, and it uses that to generate the speech. And so there isn't a whole lot of communication between the prompt and the speech that's being said. We need to make it really easy to make that communication to be really natural. If you want to get access to the call flow diagram and the Retell agent, you can go ahead and sign up for my completely free school community linked in the description. We've got over 10,000 members and plenty of courses on Vappy and Retell, VoiceFlow, N8N, Make, a bunch of tutorials and agent templates that you can copy and do whatever you want with. And obviously, with over 10,000 members, you can network with everybody, you can add questions into the community as well, and talk to others and get any of your issues fixed. If you are a business owner and you're looking into these AI voice agents and you think it could be a good fit for your business, feel free to reach out to us using the link in the description.